Gregory Peck suffered one thing a parent should never have to deal with. And despite his impressive career and the huge influence he wielded as a liberal activist, the famous actor could do nothing to prevent this tragedy. Thanks to the many memorable roles he played, Peck earned the love of his fans, and despite this success, some of his personal relationships were just heartbreaking. Let's explore Gregory Peck's life and the tragic challenges he had to endure. Peck became famous during the 1940s and graced American screens for the next 3 decades. His dedication to his career earned him nominations for the Academy Awards and eventually the Oscars. This was a pretty successful career for a boy whose childhood was quite unstable. You see, Peck's parents split when he was 5, and he went to live with his grandmother, who loved taking him and his loyal dog to the movies with her. Soon enough, 10-year-old Peck started attending a Catholic military school called St. John's Military Academy in Los Angeles. But while he was there, his grandma passed away. So at 14, the heartbroken teenager moved back to San Diego to live with his dad. Peck would end up spending the majority of his education in San Diego, finishing high school, and then attending a teacher's college, which is now San Diego State University. It was during this time in his life that he joined the college's track team and started studying theater and public speaking. After a year at the college, Peck decided to go to the University of California, Berkeley, with a plan to study medicine. But that plan fell through, and he ended up taking English instead. While studying, Peck joined the university's rowing team. He seemed drawn to participate in one sport or another everywhere he found himself, which is not surprising given he was built strong, standing at 6 feet 3 inches. But Peck was about to lose his education. See, even though Peck's tuition was just $26 per year, he had trouble paying for it and had to take a job as a kitchen helper for the Gamma Phi Beta sorority in exchange for food to feed himself. While passing through this hard time, Peck began to seriously consider his future as an English major. Then one day, he reminded himself of his passion for acting and realized that he had the perfect, rich, smooth voice that would easily catch people's attention, thanks to that public speaking course he took a few years ago. After considering this, he decided to give acting a shot. Luckily for him, his acting talent was noticed by Kai Ebright, the university's acting coach, who continued to encourage him to pursue acting. And soon, the director of the university's Little Theater got him involved in an acting group, and before long, Peck was performing in plays and dramas. He would later say about his time at Berkeley, "It was a very special experience for me and 3 of the greatest years of my life. It woke me up and made me a human being." However, Peck didn't finish college with his friends because he was missing one class. And while his friends were worried about him not finishing, he boldly said to them, "I've learned all I need from college." Having concluded that acting was the way for him, Peck stopped using the name Eldred and headed to New York City to get better at acting. He joined the neighborhood playhouse to learn from a famous acting teacher, Sanford Meisner. Since he didn't have much money, Peck would sometimes sleep in Central Park and do odd jobs to earn money. He baked. He was a tour guide, giving tours at Rockefeller Center for NBC television and working at Radio City Music Hall. He also did some modeling and worked for food at the Barter Theater in Virginia, where he acted in plays like Family Portrait and On Earth as It Is. After learning at the neighborhood playhouse, Peck started acting in plays. In 1941, he first appeared on stage in a play called The Doctor's Dilemma by George Bernard Shaw. The following year, Peck got married to Greta Kukkonen, and together they raised 3 sons, namely Jonathan, Stephen, and Carrie. The couple eventually separated, but they chose to remain friends because of their kids. Peck, now a father, continued to act in plays on Broadway. Even when World War II started, Peck continued to act because he couldn't join the military due to a back injury he got during dance lessons, which were a part of his acting training. So for a while, Peck was honing his acting skills by taking part in plays. In over 3 years, he had done about 50 plays, including 3 Broadway shows that didn't last long. But everything was about to change. Peck got the chance to play a role in the movie The Keys of the Kingdom, which was directed by John Stahl. This movie got Peck his first chance to win an Academy Award. He played an 80-year-old Catholic priest, reflecting on his determined missionary work in China for more than 50 years. The movie showed Peck's character aging from his 20s to his 80s, and Peck was appearing in nearly every scene. The movie wasn't even a big hit at the box office, but it ended up getting 4 Oscar nominations, including Peck's first for Best Actor. This was Peck's breakthrough role, launching him to stardom, and it was one hell of a way to land your first big break. Critics praised Peck's performance despite mixed reviews for the film itself. His appearance on screen, looking tall, strong, and brave, got him fans so quickly, and this massively helped his career. After this wonderful launch, Peck appeared in many successful movies, even working with the likes of Alfred Hitchcock and co-star Ingrid Bergman. At some point, there were rumors of an ongoing romance between Bergman and Peck, which he admitted to, saying, "All I can say is that I had a real love for her, and I think that's where I ought to stop. I was young. She was young. We were involved for weeks in close and intense work." Clearly, the affair must have been great, as the movie Spellbound, which they both starred in, was such a big hit that it was ranked as the 3rd most successful film of 1946. The critics liked it, and mostly loved Peck's acting in it. His performance was praised as restrained and refined, perfectly matched for Bergman's role. According to Frank Miller of Turner Classic Movies, the movie helped Peck become a Hollywood star, and even a major sex symbol. The producers noticed that women in the audience especially loved it when Peck's name appeared in the credits, and during his first scenes, the women failed to keep their excitement under control. Spellbound got 6 Oscar nominations, including Best Picture. That same year, Peck starred in another movie, The Yearling, and it did well at the box office and got 6 Oscar nominations, including one for Best Actor, which Peck won the Golden Globe for. Even years later, it still got praised by critics, some of whom consider it one of the best and most beloved family movies of its time. Peck soon showed that he was really good in westerns when he tried something different by playing a mean cowboy in the western soap opera, starring alongside Jennifer Jones as his love interest. Their chemistry was described as a constant battle of sensuality that made sparks fly. The movie received considerable attention for its steamy content, and was even banned in some places for being too scandalous. Despite mixed reviews, it was one of the top-grossing movies of the year and the entire 1940s. Although this time Peck didn't win an Oscar, his co-star Jones received an Oscar nomination for her role. After that, Peck appeared in different kinds of other movies, but most didn't get the pull of his earlier work. But instead of moping about that, Peck diverted his attention to something else. Along with Mel Ferrer and Dorothy McGuire, he helped start the La Jolla Playhouse in his hometown. They put on shows at La Jolla High School Auditorium until 1964. Later, the Playhouse was moved to the University of California, San Diego, where it still operates today. Over the years, it has attracted Hollywood stars who take breaks from movies to act in or support the theater. Peck returned with a bang. He starred in Gentleman's Agreement, a movie directed by Elia Kazan. This movie was hailed as Hollywood's first major stand against anti-Semitism, and Peck played a magazine writer who pretends to be Jewish to experience bigotry firsthand. The movie got 8 Oscar nominations, winning Best Picture and Best Director. It was the second highest-grossing film of 1948. Peck later said it was one of his proudest projects. Critics praised the film's bravery and quality, and many found his performance very convincing. However, in recent years, opinions have differed on Peck's portrayal. Then there were those who felt the film was important, but not particularly good. Peck's next movie, 12 O'Clock High, was based on a true story. He played the role of a brave, efficient, yet compassionate military leader, a character type he would become known for. The movie was well received, getting 4 Oscar nominations, including one for Peck. It was also a commercial success and received positive reviews, with critics praising his performance. The New York Times highlighted his ability to portray both toughness and vulnerability, while film historian Peter von Bogg called it one of Peck's most memorable roles. This inspired Peck so much that after many successful movies, he decided to only make interesting movies. By the 1950s and 60s, Peck had become pretty famous all around the world. He was appearing in movies like Captain Horatio Hornblower and David and Bathsheba, a story from the Bible, which many people around the world found relatable. This success brought him more success as he got to work with Ava Gardner and Audrey Hepburn, the beautiful, talented actresses of the day. But Peck had no eyes for them. He had met Veronique Passani, a journalist, and was in love. Veronique herself was born in Paris. Her mom was an artist and writer, and her dad was an architect. She started working as a journalist for a French newspaper called France Soir. That's where she met Peck while interviewing him. 2 years later, they married on New Year's Eve, right after Peck divorced his first wife, Greta Kukkonen. The new marriage produced a son named Anthony Peck and a daughter named Cecilia Peck. Their marriage turned out to be a great match as Veronique became known for her charity work in Greater Los Angeles. She raised around $50 million for the American Cancer Society in the 60s with her husband. Additionally, she helped start the Inner City Cultural Center, which brought together people from different ethnic backgrounds, and founded the Los Angeles Music Center. She even got the honor Woman of the Year from the Los Angeles Times for her efforts. Veronique's generosity was obviously supported by her husband, who was well known for his kindness. For example, back in the 40s, he donated thousands to the Berkeley rowing team to honor his coach, the famous Kai Ebright. He had also raised a lot of money to support the missionary work of his friend, Father Albert O'Hara. In addition, he worked alongside his son Stephen as a co-producer on a cassette recording of the New Testament. This selflessness and desire to stand for something have often played out in Peck's career. He chose to play the role of lawyer Atticus Finch in To Kill a Mockingbird, a movie based on a famous modern story about racial unfairness, and was praised by everyone for his performance. It was this movie that gave him an Oscar, after he had been nominated 4 times in the past. Outside acting, Peck held several important roles in the film industry and charitable organizations. He was the president of the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences at one point, and chaired the board of trustees of the American Film Institute for almost 3 years. In 1970, Peck received the Screen Actors Guild Award for Outstanding Achievement in Fostering the Ideals of the Acting Profession. At the same time, President Lyndon B. Johnson awarded him the Presidential Medal of Freedom, stating that he was an artist who had brought new dignity to the actor's profession. As a Democrat, Peck was proposed as a potential Democratic candidate to challenge Ronald Reagan for the California governor position in the 70s. However, he confessed that he did not want to run for public office. Instead, he supported his son, Kerry, in pursuing a political career. Peck shared that former President Johnson once mentioned that if he had run for re-election in 1968, he would have gotten the role of U.S. Ambassador to Ireland due to his Irish heritage, a role Peck said he might have accepted, calling it a great adventure. However, while one former president praised Peck for his efforts, another president wasn't as impressed. President Richard Nixon included Peck on his enemies list due to Peck's liberal activism. He had spoken out against the Vietnam War while also supporting his son, Stephen, who served there. And the fact was, Peck wasn't some washed-up Hollywood star wasting away in some Beverly Hills mansion. He was still very influential in Hollywood. He led the Motion Picture and Television Relief Fund. He was serving as the national chairman of the American Cancer Society and was a National Council on the Arts member. So, Peck's voice was loud enough. And despite President Nixon's disapproval, Peck went ahead to produce the movie adaptation of Daniel Berrigan's play, The Trial of the Catonsville Nine, which tells the story of Vietnam War protesters facing legal action for civil disobedience. Clearly, Peck wasn't a man to be intimidated and would stand his ground fearlessly. That ground was swept away from under his feet 3 years later when the entire Peck family experienced a terrible tragedy. Peck's first older son, Jonathan Peck, killed himself at 31 years of age. Jonathan was an actor, just like his father, and he had a promising future ahead of him and was expected to accomplish great things. For a while, he displayed potential, and after college, he joined the Peace Corps. He even spent a few years in Tanzania working on a Swahili agriculture program. After returning to his hometown, Jonathan got a job at a radio station and showed strong moral values. He never partied or drank. Despite appearing very peaceful, Jonathan battled with inner struggles. Jonathan eventually shot himself in the head. His father later explained that Jonathan was depressed because of too much work, a breakup, and his arteriosclerosis illness. This loss surely shook the whole family, but Peck himself felt it the most. The legendary actor was now a grieving father. So Peck took a break from work that lasted for about 2 years because he and his family needed space from the public eye. But the pain of losing his first child, despite all that he was just too much for him to bear. And during that 2-year hiatus, it was also reported that Peck had been admitted to a psychiatric hospital. As if that wasn't enough, Peck's youngest son, Anthony, was causing his father another heartbreak. Anthony was involved in a scandal. Reports suggest he struggled with drug addiction, which hindered the opportunities that came with being part of a famous family. His careless way of life led to his divorce from his wife, supermodel Cheryl Tiegs, leaving him shocked. His lifestyle also strained his relationship with his renowned father and caused him to miss out on the great life he could have lived. All these were tearing at Peck's soul because Anthony's issues with alcohol were harmful to himself. There were concerns that he might end up like his older brother Jonathan and ruin his life, causing his father even more pain and sadness. Thankfully, Peck's other kids were doing better than Anthony. Stephen Peck, who initially considered acting, discovered his true passion was helping the homeless, dedicated himself to that, and got huge support from his father. Stephen's sister, Cecilia, became a well-known actress after starting her screen career in the movie My Best Friend is a Vampire. And of course, she got no less support from her father. After 2 years of trying to put pieces of himself back together, Peck eventually reappeared in the public eye around 1980. Even though he likely never fully recovered from the loss of his son, he started working again. The first thing he did was help people in trouble. In October of that same year, the Chrysler Corporation, a car company, faced a severe drop in sales and stock, putting around 600,000 workers at risk of losing their jobs. Peck met Chrysler's chairman Lee A. Iacocca in Detroit, Michigan, along with Frank Sinatra, where they agreed to support Chrysler. As part of the deal, Peck agreed to appear in TV commercials for the new 1981 K-car compacts without taking any payment, simply using his reputation to endorse the cars. He expressed deep concern for those affected by the potential job losses. In a statement, he explained, "This could mean the difference between good or tough times for 600,000 families. I told Mr. Iacocca I wanted to lend a hand." In the commercials, Peck began by declaring, "America won't be pushed around anymore." This display of kindness and compassion almost led him into a shocking role, the presidency. You see, during Ronald Reagan's rising political popularity, many began to see Peck as a potential successor. California's Governor Pat Brown even said, "If actors are running for governor, maybe the Democrats should have chosen Greg Peck." T-shirts and badges reading "Vote for Peck" started appearing nationwide, partly in jest, but also to nudge the actor towards political action. But Peck has always said he didn't love the idea of joining politics. He later stated, "I never once thought about running. I don't even have a secret desire to do that." Instead of politics, Peck returned to his acting career. Throughout the 80s, he kept making movies he wanted, and in 1991 he made his final film, Other People's Money. He played the part of a business owner fighting to save his company from a Wall Street takeover. After this movie, he retired from acting and spent his time traveling the world. 2 years later, at the 43rd Berlin International Film Festival, he received an honorary Golden Bear. In 1998, he was awarded the National Medal of Arts, and he was granted a Doctor of Letters degree by the National University of Ireland. In the same year, Peck returned to acting for one final role on camera. He starred in the miniseries adaptation of his movie, The Moby Dick. His performance earned him a Golden Globe Award for Best Supporting Actor in a Series, Miniseries, or Television Film. After retiring, he was honored with several Lifetime Achievement Awards, including the Screen Actors Guild Lifetime Achievement Award, the American Film Institute Life Achievement Award, the Crystal Globe Award, the Dynastia Lifetime Achievement Award, and the George Eastman Award. In his later years, Peck tried to spend more time with his family. Stephen even stated that he was glad to see Peck bond with his grandson Ethan. "I wanted my son to know his grandpa, and he did. They got along really well. He was always seen as a gentleman, and he truly was one." Peck later passed away in his sleep from bronchopneumonia in 2003 at 87. Gregory Peck died a highly distinguished actor, respected by even heads of nations. Not bad for a boy who had to wash plates for his meals.